So first of all, in 2 Samuel, at the end there, the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake." And all the troops heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. Now, a lot of times I hear from students and they say, "I don't understand the Bible. Everybody does such horrible things. Why are people doing horrible things?" Well, it's human nature. And maybe this is something that is hard for you guys to understand, but it's so real and so true. Even though Absalom has killed another of David's sons, remember, and is in active rebellion against David, his father, and is willing to kill his own father, David, in order to maintain control in Judah, David loves his son. It's his son. And David is an old man at this point. And he's going through all of this. Remember, we've been told that this is, Nathan the prophet tells David early on that this is all the result of what he did with Bathsheba and Bathsheba's husband. But whether or not this is punishment or earned, your heart has to go out to David. Of course, he still loves Absalom, although it doesn't make much sense for him to tell his military commanders, "Be gentle with the leader of this rebellion. Be gentle with our enemy." Now, it's perhaps a foreshadowing of the whole Christian love your enemies thing. Because after all, his enemy is his own son. And when we become enemies of God, we are, in a sense, God's sons and daughters who become his enemies. So imagine what it would be like to be in David's position, an old man whose very life and rule, the whole country really, is being threatened by his own son. And yet Absalom, remember, started out justified. Absalom's case against his brother who raped his own sister was justified, and David didn't do anything about it. So some of this is David reaping what he's sown. Unlike bringing in the sheaves, he's bringing in something, and it's a lot of sorrow and suffering. But maybe there's a silver lining even to this cloud. At any rate, we are now set up to see how will the actual battle between Absalom and his forces and the forces of David play themselves out. David doesn't even seem to care about the kingdom. He wants his son's life spared. You have to feel for him. Let's take a look at Jeremiah just a little bit, because I think it really helps explain what Jesus says when Jesus talks about, when he talks to the Pharisees and says that your fathers, your ancestors murdered the prophets who were sent to them. Then Jeremiah spoke to the officials and the people in his own defense. "The Lord sent me to prophesy against this temple and this city," he said. "The Lord gave me every word that I have spoken. But if you stop sinning and begin to obey the Lord your God, he will change his mind about this disaster that he has announced against you. As for me, I'm in your hands. Do with me as you think best. But if you kill me, rest assured that you will be killing an innocent man. The responsibility for such a deed will lie on you, on this city, and on every person living in it. For it is absolutely true that the Lord sent me to speak every word you have heard." And then we find out that there's another prophet, Uriah, the son of Shemaiah from Kiriath Jearim. He too was prophesying the same thing. But what did King Jehoiakim do with Uriah? Even after Uriah escapes and flees to Egypt, he has him captured. They took him prisoner and brought him back to King Jehoiakim. The king then killed Uriah with the sword and had him buried in an unmarked grave. However, they spare the life of Jeremiah. This is what happens. This is why what happened to Christ was not just out of nowhere. It is also part of human nature. We don't want to hear the truth. We really don't like the truth. And if you doubt that, I hate it when the camera does that. If you doubt that, just look around you. Look at how people react to the truth. Look at the falsehoods that they would rather believe, the strange conspiracy theories, the weirdnesses, and all the bizarre things that they would rather believe anything but the truth. And if you tell them the truth, they'll want you dead, or at least out of the picture. So it's risky to be a prophet, to be a true prophet. If you're a false prophet, you'll have it made, because the false prophets tell people what they want to hear. Notice also, those of you who are familiar with the Apology of Socrates, how all of this stuff is also played out in the secular world of Athens with Socrates and his accusers. But then the last thing I just want to point out to you quickly, since I won't want to take that much of your time, Revelations 4, around the throne were 24 thrones, and seated on the thrones were 24 elders, clothed in white garments with golden crowns on their heads. And then there are strange-looking creatures with wings and many, many eyes. The first living creature was like a lion, the second like an ox, the third had the face of a man, the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. These bizarre creatures in addition to the 24 thrones. The 24 thrones are the 12 tribes of Judah, the 12 tribes of Judah, the 12 tribes of Jacob, the 12 sons of Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, the sons of Jacob who becomes Israel way back in Genesis. These are the patriarchs, and they were considered to be the universal representation of the people of God. And John, remember, is Jewish. St. John is Jewish. And so part of what he's seeing in these visions are symbols and visions that speak to the reality of the Jews as the people of God, the first part of God's revelation, the Old Testament. The additional 12, there are 12 tribes of Israel, and then the 12 apostles. So the 12 apostles that we meet in the New Testament recapitulate the symbolism of the original 12 tribes of Israel. And the number 12, there are 12 months, 12 signs of the zodiac. The number 12 symbolizes a kind of completeness on earth and also in heaven. It's a sense of this is how the cosmos is structured, so that the number 12, later we'll hear about the number 144,000, which is 12 squared times 1,000. So that, again, the number 12 is an important symbolical number, indicating sort of the wholeness both on earth and in the cosmos. And these strange creatures, the face of a man, an ox, the face of an eagle, and the other one is a lion. Traditionally, these have been taken to represent the four evangelists. And you will see in almost every church some sort of iconography with these four creatures. And this comes from Revelations 4. The idea is that St. Matthew, who wrote the gospel according to Matthew, it's a human and humane gospel, so he's represented with the face of a man. St. Mark, who wrote his short gospel but is very powerful, is represented as a lion. Luke, whose gospel we're reading, is an ox, a great deal of power and force behind the gospel of Luke. So Luke is represented as an ox. And then St. John's gospel is very spiritual and kind of mystical, and so he's represented as an eagle or a bird in flight. So when you see these symbols in church, they're in almost every church. Look for these symbols. They represent the four evangelists, the four authors of books, of the books of the gospel in the New Testament. And when you see that, you will know it comes from John's vision as recounted in Revelation 4. Okay, questions or comment? Do that, kids. Oh, we get a week off, by the way. Nothing next week. Mid-semester break or something? You don't have to do a thing in this class. But catch your breath, then go outside and play video games inside, but then go outside. Have a party. Keep reading the Bible, maybe, but there are no assignments for next week. Have fun.